Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we reel from a disappointing movie summer by applauding our favorite film posters of the cinematic season. Like The Legend of Tarzan, this podcast is ripped and ready to start swinging.
Speaking Human.
That was solid. That was way better than I thought it was going to be. So much energy. Good stuff.
The original Tarzan.
Welcome to Speaking Human, where we simplify the world of marketing for humans. I'm Shad Conley, and inspired by the massive success of Finding Dory, I'd like to encourage everyone listening to this podcast to picture me and my co-host as computer animated fish. Got the image in your head? It's better, isn't it?
Computer animated fish. I love
Well,
that.
you can be a mollusk if you want.
I want to be an enemy.
Good choice. That's a good choice for you.
And I'm Patrick Jebber, and I truly believe, Shad, in the power of movie posters.
The power to do what?
The power to move you, Shad. The power to move you, to get in the movie theater, sit in a seat for 2 hours.
Buy a ticket for $20. That's quite a bit of movement. And in case you haven't guessed it already, the topic of today's episode, one of our favorite topics on this podcast, summer movie marketing. We're going to revisit the box office predictions we made way back in May. Get excited for that, Patrick. And share our top 5 movie posters of the summer. But first, Patrick, let's talk a little bit about the movie season as a whole this summer. What did you think about it? Was this a good summer at the movies?
We could probably both agree here, Shad, that this summer was not better than last summer.
I would probably agree with you there. And I didn't think last summer was all that great.
So I think we could both agree that this summer and last summer were not better than the previous summer.
I think we could probably say that every summer is worse than the summer that came before. But I do think this summer was garbage. I mean, for the most part. Usually, I think I said this maybe last year when we did this show, that I just, I used to get so excited for all these movies to see in the summer. And like last summer and this summer, I've just kind of been like, there's some movies coming out. A couple of them looked interesting, but not all that many.
Yeah, I saw way less than I have in the past. I actually can't remember a summer where I saw less movies than this summer.
Because you usually see a lot of movies in the summer, right? Like how many would you say you saw last summer? Just a ballpark.
I'd say over the whole summer season, maybe half a dozen. That's a lot of movies to me, a couple a month.
Yeah, that's a good amount. And how many did you see this year?
One.
Just one? Wow.
Oh,
What
no,
movie-
I'm sorry. I saw 2 movies. I saw Star Trek Beyond, and I saw The Secret Life of Pets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's actually surprising. I'm usually, at least since I've had kids, which is like 3 years now, my summer movie watching has gone way down. I'm averaging one a summer, which is what I got this summer. Out of all the movies that came out, I only saw one.
Even the ones I predicted would do well didn't even make it into my priority list, which is sad. I mean, since I was actually a product of my own prediction demise. Very counterproductive.
Well, that was a problem with a lot of these movies. They just got such bad buzz. Like a lot of the movies people were excited for, they just got such bad buzz and reviews, word of mouth right off the bat that any interest I did have was extinguished immediately.
Weird, because I thought the summer started off pretty strong in terms of the hype and the marketing that went around that. I thought Secret Life of Pets started off the season really strong. And then after that, it fell really just into a spiral of sadness.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I thought, when we had our show where we were talking about the marketing around the Olympics, that's kind of the way I thought about movie marketing this summer. It's, nothing was all that great other than, a couple things. Like we usually do this show, and what we do is we talk about the best or most unique marketing campaigns that movies had in the summer. But we couldn't even do that this year because I just didn't feel like there wasn't anything all that great. There really wasn't much to talk about.
Yeah, which is difficult because it's been one of our favorite episodes that we record every year because movie marketing has such a huge budget. You get to see some pretty cool things happen every year with some movie marketing initiatives, but this year, just nothing that really stood out.
Yeah, it's why we do it. It's everything we talk about on the show, like social, video, viral, email, everything on the grandest, biggest scale possible. So it gives us some good examples and, kind of some good inspiration, I think, for listeners. But yeah, this year, I will say there was one fantastic and very in-depth and very expensive marketing campaign that I thought was great. And that was for the one movie I saw this summer, which was Suicide Squad.
Yeah, they did do a lot of marketing around it. I feel like it was a little disjointed, but it was definitely good marketing.
Yeah, it was wallpaper, and I will say it worked. The one thing is with that movie, it got terrible reviews, and it's pretty much an awful, awful movie, I think. But, I had heard all the reviews and all the word of mouth, but I watched the trailer for this movie and saw some of this marketing, and I'm like, these people are wrong. Maybe they don't like it. But there's no way, from what I was seeing from the marketing, my thought was, there's no way I won't like this. The marketing beat out all rational thought in my mind and got me to go see that movie, and it was awful. Everybody was right. It was terrible, but the marketing blocked that out of my mind that could be a possibility.
Yeah, well, that's what good marketing does, right? It almost hypnotizes.
It does, and I got hypnotized and tricked by that one, and I want my money back. So,
really? It was that bad, huh?
I don't know if it's that bad, but it's bad. It wasn't worth seeing in the theater, And for all the hype surrounding it, I thought I was getting a much better movie. It's kind of actually amazing how bad it is for, the budget and the marketing and everything that went into it. I mean, I'd rather watch the marketing for 2 hours.
That says something right there.
Yeah. So that, bleak story as a background gives you a little idea of what we thought of the summer movie season before we talk about the business side of things in the box office.
Yeah, Shad, and before we find out whether we hit or flopped with our summer box office predictions, let's get a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's episode of Speaking Human is sponsored by none other than Monsters Unlimited, a creative agency with a business brain. When you need to communicate clearly with your customers and build lasting relationships, think Monsters. Visit thinkmonsters.com to learn more about their creative service offerings.
All right, so Patrick, let's take a minute to talk about the summer box office numbers. Overall, for as bad as we were saying it kind of is, or a week of a summer movie season, wasn't that bad. 4.3 billion total summer box office, which was down from last year when it was 4.4 billion, but not really off base from what it's been over the past decade. It's always been kind of in that early range of the 4 billion, so nothing too crazy there. Kind of surprising since the films, that came out this summer weren't all that well received. And if you remember, Patrick, back in May, episode 58 of this podcast, we did something kind of interesting in that we predicted what we thought would be the top 5 movies at the U.S. box office this summer, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Do you remember your picks?
I do remember my picks. I'll go in order from least important to most important. My number 5 was Ghostbusters. 4 was X-Men Apocalypse. 3 was Independence Day Resurgence. 2 is Star Trek Beyond. And 1 was Jason Bourne.
Good set of picks there. Good set of picks. Yeah. My top 5 then was number 5, X-Men Apocalypse. Number 4, Jason Bourne. Number 3, The Secret Life of Pets. Number 2, Finding Dory. And number 1, Suicide Squad, the movie that tricked me. So now, that's what it will forever be known as. Here are what the actual top 5 were, according to the box office numbers. Number 5, Star Trek Beyond, which had 158 million. Number 4 was Jason Bourne with 160 million. Number 3, Suicide Squad with 315 million. Number 2, The Secret Life of Pets with 364 million. And number 1, Finding Dory with 484 million. Captain America came out too early. It was actually before we did the episode, so we didn't include that in those numbers. But Second biggest movie of the summer.
They included it in the summer seasons, online.
Yeah, if we do this show again, we might have to do it earlier next year to take in. Now, all these movies start coming out early May. That's like the quote-unquote beginning of summer now.
Well, let me just say this, Shad.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about your list and your thoughts.
So 4 of my top 5 were in the top 10 of the season. So I don't feel as bad as when the season started and you were making scientifical decisions. Okay, so my list isn't all that bad.
That's it? That's all you have to say?
Yeah.
Your list is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, X-Men Apocalypse right outside the top 5 with $155 million. Ghostbusters was like number 8. Independence Day Resurgence didn't do great. You had also mentioned on the episode as like kind of a possible dark horse, Bad Moms, which did pretty well. So all in all, it wasn't too bad. But I did some number crunching because I wanted to see what.
Of course you did.
Taking the total amount that your top 5 made versus the total amount that my top 5 made. So let me tell you the results of that. Your top 5 made a total of $703 million. That's a lot of money, right?
No, that's not too good.
My top 5 made a total of $1.47 billion, which is double.
Yeah, whatever. If you hadn't chosen Finding Dory, Secret Life of Pets, those two alone won you the war.
Well, yeah, obviously leaving out family films was a big omission on your part.
Yeah.
So if we were like rival studio heads, you just wouldn't have done that well.
But I would have had Captain America, which would have crushed you.
I mean, if we were including that, I would have had Captain America too.
Whatever, that's what you say. You family man, whatever.
It just seems like I have my, finger on the pulse of the American movie-going audience, is all I'm saying. So we may have to do this again next year and see what happens. Your little studio did well this summer, made a little bit of money, few $1 million.
A few million.
No billions, but anything else to say on that?
Well, my list, it wasn't quite a spiral of sadness, but yeah, I'll give it to you. You win this time around. You win this time. Next year, though, it's on.
It'll be good to see what happens. I'll give you this. Your list wasn't quite the total train wreck I was hoping it would be.
You are hoping? Man.
Win at all costs. While this year's crop of summer movies may have not delivered everything audiences were hoping for, they did deliver some awesome movie posters. So let's now dive into our top 5 movie posters of summer 2016.
Gentlemen, ladies, what if Superman had decided to fly down, rip off the roof of the White House, grab the president right out of the Oval Office? Who would have stopped him?
I want to build a team of some very bad people who I think can do some good.
You don't own me.
Y'all jokers must be crazy.
I'm not just one of your many toys.
That was a clip from the trailer for Suicide Squad. That movie's massive marketing campaign included 1 million different posters promoting the film. Literally 1 million. Will any of them make our top 5 list? You're about to find out.
All right, Patrick. So what we're doing, this is a new one for us. We're picking our top 5 favorite movie posters of summer 2016. So let me ask you before we dive into our picks here, what was your criteria for choosing these? Like, what makes a good movie poster to you?
Well, they had to make an impact on me. They had to be visually interesting and tell the story of what the movie was about in an instant. So just like a billboard, you have this very quick span of time to tell the story. Same thing went for the posters for me in terms of the criteria. And most importantly, they couldn't just be about movies that I wanted to see or thought were cool because of my bias. What were your criteria?
I had a few different things. One, it had to catch the eye, obviously. If you're like walking through a lobby, it had to be something that would grab your eye so you would look at it. The second is establishing the tone or genre of the film. So you have to know by looking at it, is this a comedy? Is this a horror movie? Is this a drama? You should be able to pick that up real quick. And then the third thing, and maybe the most important one, was does it get you asking questions? Does it like make your brain bubble up so then you're like, ooh, I want to know more about this. Taken together, those are kind of the three things that I found in my picks.
Those are good.
So let's see what these picks actually are. Do you want to start us off with your number 5?
My number 5 was Sausage Party. I'll say this. These posters, there's quite a few of these, but the poster that I sort of react to is just so pornographic without being pornographic. Should I say, Shad, food porn? And it tells the story of the movie. You get a sense of what this movie's about instantly. And it's visually interesting.
Well said. Can you describe which poster it is you chose here?
I chose the one where it's got the hot dog in between the buns, and it says, "Get your fill."
Okay.
There's also another one, "A Hero Will Rise," and it's actually just a hot dog, and he's kind of in an erect position, so to speak. So both of those actually were like really, really on the edge of like being inappropriate, but it definitely says what the movie is all about. And everybody that I've talked to that has seen the movie says the same thing, which is, oh my God.
Well, I'll jump in and say I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because we're on the subject. My number 2 pick was the Sausage Party, A Hero Will Rise poster, which, as you described it, is sort of just this hot dog curving up from the side of the poster in this bright yellow spotlight with a smiling face. Obviously, you have the pun on there, but it's a poster that made me laugh out loud, which is a great thing when you're promoting a comedy. So immediately, like I said, I knew it was a comedy. And that, weird combination between, the dirty pun that's going on there and the kind of family animated imagery you're seeing just raises all sorts of question of what is this, right? And then you get the title, which is also kind of a pun. It's just like this mix of friendly animated imagery with just, semi-filthy little puns in there that really makes me laugh. I just think it's a great comedy poster.
Yeah, and you definitely get a sense that this movie is not going to be G-rated, which is really important, I think.
Though I imagine, you see this in a lobby, a little kid would be like, hey, that's funny.
So what was your number 5, Shad?
My number 5 was a poster for Star Trek Beyond. And this is a poster of, it's a close-up image of just a half a face of this alien female character. Face is kind of pale white with these black markings on it and a colored eye with some unique markings on it as well. I guess the character's name is Jayla. I haven't actually seen the movie, so you probably know more about that than me. This striking image, and like I talked about, it establishes clearly this is sci-fi, right? And even without, it doesn't even have Star Trek on it. It just says Beyond. And you see the face, and then, the question is, who is this? Especially if you know the Star Trek connection, then you're like, what is this character? How does this come into play? It's just a striking image, and whether or not it was a Star Trek movie, it would catch my eye and be like, I'm interested in knowing more about what this is.
In marketing, people's faces, especially close-ups and of people's eyes, can draw you in just because of our human inclination to be connected with other people. So I could see why that would draw you in, and it is a good poster.
What is your number 4, Patrick?
My number 4 was for X-Men Apocalypse. So I did mention that I wasn't allowing my biases to be involved in my picks. And that said, I thought this poster was pretty dead on for the fact that the image of the main villain holding that disintegrating skull and the title of the movie, Apocalypse, there was no mistaking what this movie was about. It was a great movie poster. I thought it was very interesting, and it made you ask questions. Who is this character? How is this going to play out?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's, actually very similar to what I saw in that Star Trek poster. You're seeing a new character, someone you haven't seen before, and that just creates that intrigue. Like, what's the story here, right?
It's so much more powerful than, if they had stuck any one of the X-Men characters on there. You've seen them. You've seen them a million times. And to see the villain in this way and, very dark and sort of foreboding imagery of the skull brought to light what the movie was about.
Yeah, which is a smart thing to do with an established franchise, too.
So what was your number 4?
My number 4 is a small movie I hadn't really heard of till doing this called The Neon Demon, which is kind of an indie, I don't know if it was a horror movie or what, small release this summer. And the poster I'm talking about, there's This is another one with a lot of different and very interesting posters. Worth Googling the Neon Demon movie poster just to see the different versions that come up. But the one I'm talking about has Elle Fanning, who's the star of the movie, just staring ahead dead-eyed. It's in black and white other than these splashes of color. So she has on her what looks like blood dripping down from her neck to her torso, but it's purple. It's just a striking and odd, surreal image. It doesn't totally make clear what this movie is, like a lot of the other posters, but it intrigues you enough to want to find out what this movie is. There's, allusions to like Carrie and horror movies, but I'm not sure that's exactly what this movie is. And then obviously with the cryptic title, The Neon Demon, you put these things together. Just, it creates something really interesting and different. Whereas most of them, they kind of establish clearly the genre. And I even said that was kind of the criteria I was looking for. This one was kind of interesting because it breaks that rule a little bit and just intrigues you on a different level, which for an indie film is a smart move. It also has the tagline, beauty isn't everything, it's the only thing, which is but it works with the image they have here.
Yeah, it's definitely mysterious what the movie's about when you look at that movie poster, but the design is just very striking. Great use of color to create this sort of visual impact. So yeah, I like that. Just from a design standpoint, it's a great movie poster, I think.
Yeah, and it also, you were talking about the eye contact. Here you have somebody staring out directly at you in kind of an uncomfortable way, in a way that shows you, I think, what the movie is about, where there's some tension there and it makes you a little nervous and unsettled rather than creating a connection. So that's my number 4. Patrick, you're number 3.
Well, I had no desire to see this movie. I think the Don't Breathe movie poster is pretty powerful. And for those who like scary movies, which I would say scary/thriller, this one definitely made a visual impact. And it's the poster image with the woman with the hands over her face, her mouth, and she just looks terrified. It's a very dark poster movie image, meaning she's kind of coming out, the light is shining on her, and these hands over her mouth. When you look at it, you feel like it's hard to breathe. It's suffocating. And so for a movie title that says Don't Breathe, it does exactly what it should, which is make you feel very uneasy. I thought this was a pretty good movie poster, even though I have really no desire to see this movie.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a good movie. Good buzz on that one. It's a great poster, I think, especially for a horror movie. And that, image with title, that combination, what it accomplishes there. Like I said, the questions, it just triggers all these questions in your mind. Like, what does that mean exactly? What's happening here? Whose hand? What's going on? What's the story? It makes you want to learn more, and it definitely pulls you in there.
Absolutely. So what's your number 3, Shad?
My number 3 was the movie that tricked me into believing it could be a good movie or that I would like it, and that is Suicide Squad. This is, as you said in the intro, the movie of a million posters. If you look online, there's all these character posters and just different styles of posters. The one I'm talking about is a green background, and it just has... It's a drawn version where it's just all these skulls made to look like the different characters in the movie. You talk about cool from a design. It looks like it could be the cover of a comic book or something. But it gave me the impression, as a lot of the marketing did so excellently for this movie, it just kind of captured the comic book fun that the movie promised. This is going to be fun. This is going to be different. This is going to be kind of a wild, more chaotic version of the superhero story. This isn't the typical thing that you're seeing. This isn't Captain America. And it wasn't. It was awful. But, just from all the marketing and things like this is one of the things I looked at where I'm like, I love that. That speaks to me. I'd hang that on my wall. But it just sold me on the promise of the fun this movie was going to be, the comic book fun and the differentiator they promised that wasn't really there in the end.
Yeah, I will say that my number 1 pick was Suicide Squad. I just love the visual design of the Suicide Squad posters, period. Mm-hmm. But the one I'm reacting to is there's a huge mushroom cloud of these characters and their heads popping out, and it's got Suicide Squad, and it says worst heroes ever, and they're visually arresting and chaotic. And that's what I think this movie is about. It's about chaos, right? I mean, having villains be your heroes, it tells that story by showing chaos in the posters themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an intriguing flip on the traditional story, or so they sell it as. I got to stop trashing the movie and just talk about why the posters are so good, I know. It's hard for me. because I was duped. The whole series of them just does that really well. And they just make this promise of what this movie was supposed to be that just had me so sold. You know, I was like, I want to see this story. I want to see the flip sides. Let's hang out with the villains, you know, and have some fun.
Yeah. And here's one that I think speaks directly to its audience. My number 2 is Finding Dory. It's a very visually serene image of the ocean with Dory in the middle. It does look like an aquarium. And I feel like from a pulling you in standpoint, you know, people are entranced by aquariums. You know what I mean? Like you could sit and stare at an aquarium for hours. And I feel like this has just the right elements to sort of make it feel like you're in this aquarium or you're looking at all these fish, and they do feel alive. And it has this element of humor that targets not only children, but also adults who saw Finding Nemo. An unforgettable journey she probably won't remember. It's cute and nostalgic for people who love the original. And again, you know, it's a children's film. It feels safe. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about?
Well, are you saying, I do. Are you saying that in a good way, or they're doing exactly what they need to do to grab this audience? Or are you saying that in a different way?
I think in a good way. I think it needed to be this, you know. I mean, it is what it is. It's not like going to be able to do Suicide Squad type marketing with Finding Dory, you know what I mean?
And there's no need to.
And there's no need to, because again, your posters should speak to your audience.
Yeah, and that may be even when I was making my picks. You know, I looked at the Finding Dory posters and the Secret Life of Pets posters, and they're all good. None of them like jumped out to me in that like surprising or unique way, but they all do exactly what they need to do, and they do it very well, which is the best thing I can say about it. You know, it's perfect. I mean, for what it is and who it's trying to appeal to and how it's selling the movie, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. They're coming for you. 3D, man.
So what's your number 1, Shad?
So my number 1 is a movie I didn't see. I don't know if I will ever see, but great poster, Lights Out. So this was a horror movie that did pretty well, made some good money, especially for a low-budget horror movie. But it's a simple poster, just incredibly effective. And what it is it's just a picture of a light switch with the front panel ripped off and the light switch taped with duct tape in the up position. And then you get the title written in kind of a child, you know, lowercase script, which just says Lights Out. So you have that image, and then you have this Lights Out, and it's all done. It's not quite black and white, but it's like a faded green, right? So all the colors kind of drained out of it, giving it that sense of dread. Obviously, this establishes genre. This is horror, but the questions, right? So you see this taped up light switch immediately. Why is that light switch taped up? It's something disturbing there, but what is it? I need to know. I need to see the movie. I need to know what that is. So it just creates that big question in your mind and really, really does a good job of selling that dread that I think the movie promises on delivering. Have you seen that poster, Patrick?
Yeah, I did. And I think it does. It does have an element of intrigue, for sure. It does make you interested in knowing what that's all about. You know, it does feel like desperation. Why would someone duct tape the light switch on? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was similar to the Don't Breathe one. I thought, you know, this one just grabbed me a little bit more. It'll be interesting, and we'll, you know, in the show notes, we'll post a link where you can find images of all these posters, but it'd be interesting to look at all of them as a whole, because I think just even looking as we've talked, the use of color and how they use it in different ways is huge.
I think it's going to be cool to see all of the ones that we picked together on a page.
Yeah, it's a good crop. All in all, a good crop and a fun list to make, I think. And on that note, let's jump into our top takeaways.
So today, Shad, my top takeaway is this. In an age of digital marketing, in an era of fleeting marketing initiatives, never underestimate the power of traditional marketing. Posters are one of the original great forms of advertisement, a medium that have allowed artists, designers, and dare I say, marketers to quickly tell a story, excite, engage, and ultimately make a visual impact on their audience. And whether you're talking about the traditionally printed poster that hangs on the walls of your local movie theater, larger than life itself, or the digital form of the poster that many often see today on their devices while they're searching for a movie to go see, there's no denying that they are still a powerful force. Just like I said in the intro, Shad, powerful. So the next time you're thinking about promoting your business, think of how a great poster design can tell the story. I always say if you can envision your marketing message as if it were on a poster, big and bold for the world to see, it helps narrow down what part of your message is important and ultimately necessary.
That's a fantastic takeaway. And I especially like that end part there because I've often said to people, when a business is trying to think of their story, if it were a movie, what would it be about? How would you sell it? Because it's a good way to think about that. So the way you've put that into the poster perspective, it's good. And, I'm someone who grew up, when I was a teenager, my walls were covered with movie posters and band posters. So I have a lot of love for the poster format, and it still lives on. It still works, and it works across mediums. Yeah.
So what's your top takeaway, Shad?
My top takeaway is this, Patrick. In life, there's a simple way to find out if someone's paying attention to you. Do they ask questions? From the classroom to the boardroom, asking questions is a sign people are actively listening and thinking. And the same goes for marketing. Whether it's a poster, a website, brochure, video, or what have you, you want your marketing to compel questions in the minds of potential customers. I'm not talking about being vague or mysterious. I'm talking about presenting information in a way that gets customers' gears churning and synapses firing. You want people to take in your marketing and the questions to start simmering and bubbling up like they did in my brain when I saw the Lights Out poster. You want people to think, how much does it cost? How would it look in my living room? How could that help my business? Because when people are asking questions, they're making a connection with your brand. And that's a pretty good indication your marketing is working. So that's my top takeaway.
Well, everyone, that's it for today's episode. You could find current and past episodes of the podcast at speakinghuman.com. It's a website where you can go and find more episodes of the podcast. You can also listen and subscribe to Speaking Human on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and Google Play.
So many different places, so many different options. I'm just going to listen to it on all of them, I think.
Everybody should.
As I mentioned, you can also tweet us with your thoughts on today's episode or tell us your favorite movie poster of summer 2016. I'd like to hear some different perspectives there. At speaking_human on Twitter. That's at speaking_human on Twitter. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you then, humans.
Speaking Human.
What a ride!
Let's play.
Come on, got some better too? Let's go!
Light it up!
I love this guy.